Hi, everybody. It's Casey with Pinecase. I am joined with Dead City Saint, C.M.C owner, the one, the only. I'm not going to put your real name up here this time because I think I'm going to leave a little space for everybody to go run around the internet and try and figure out where the heck you've
Let's
come
do
from
some research.
and where have you been, because you actually you've been around a little bit lately. Like, so we talked a little bit in the past about where you coming from, but you just sat on a panel with us when we were hanging out at Let's Five TV, and so I'm kind of
So,
curious to know exactly how some of
could
these connections get made.
interject and thank
Please.
Brandon Beck for a huge shout out after just recently getting in touch with him and Milk, and the love and reception has just been
Mm,
phenomenal. The feedback.
yeah.
So okay. Um, to answer that question, I'm gonna have to jump back to my youth.
Please.
I've been in the entertainment business for as long as I can remember. I started as a band roadie. As I
Mm.
mentioned, growing up, I was the kid in the background building the stages for the rock stars.
Such
So
a cool job. That's the coolest fucking job, honestly. Pardon my language. We'll edit it out later. It actually surprised me when we chatted on here before, because when we had it was pretty casual. I was like, okay, yeah, we got this Facebook page. You clearly know what you're talking about when it comes to music. You know what's going on with pop culture. But then when you started talking about some of your experiences with like Netflix and being a band roadie and things like that, I don't think a lot of people were expecting that to
the
be.
layers,
Nah, no.
they never do, and that's part of what makes these conversations so bloody fun for me. Because I love seeing the shock look when people realize the depth of the rabbit hole I get to play in every day.
Yeah, no, that's super wild. So how do you when you get up in the morning and you try and figure out how you're going to make these connections, like what are some of the platforms
I
that you
don't.
take advantage
I
of?
don't. I don't try to figure them out. They just whatever energy I've tapped into throughout this creation process has brought these people to me. No word of a lie. I don't. Okay, I lie. There are people I engage with and I will reach out to because I'm a fan of them.
Hmm.
But a lot of these people, just like you, have happened upon me taking minutes to talk to me, or I've expressed that I've liked their music. We'll use the hip hop scene, for example. How I got linked in with Mercules and people like Kripal of Doom Squad, and just being able to talk to them. I put
Yeah.
myself out there. When I was homeless in Edmonton,
Mhm.
I was staying in a tent actually by the downtown library. And I instead of dwelling on the fact that I was homeless, put myself out there and just started meeting people, and then eventually people found out I did music and I was an artistic person, and and it just went from there.
Do
The
you think that
momentum.
a lot of it's attitude? Like, because I mean, with if people are in that position in their life and they have no like will to like maybe get up and make themselves presentable. Now, I say that with no disrespect, because I can imagine that like starting behind the fucking start line every single time is challenging. But what I mean is that if like Milk says, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And so, do you think that a lot of that is like your mindset and making yourself ready for those conversations or those connections to happen?
I've definitely opened the door to that energy, and that now it's like it said in that picture. You don't realize how the tiniest spark can create a massive, massive fire. Now you take that in the mind of a creative. That tiny little spark was my idea for C.M.C. Did I know it was gonna have the ripple effect and bounce out to so many more other creative options for me? Hell no, I had no idea. I had no idea. So when it blew up in my face, I was just as shocked as the people who support me. I
Mm.
was like, oh, oh, this is becoming a real thing. This is musical reality. These are issues that not just me dealing with corporate entities in the music world, but so many artists have. Like, I'd like to say seeing people like the idiot that Daz had to face. I'd like to say that that's not normal in the music scene, but really, there is a lot of shitty people in our world.
industry. But I think right now, a lot of the time, like I feel like the beauty is coming to the surface. I feel like everyone's really taking initiative, and I think that everybody that has had the hustle before, and sell the CDs out of the trunks of their car, and like put in the sweat equity, like those people right now, that sweat equity is paying off. I feel like those people's voices are speaking louder. I feel like not a lot of people are turning to like the big execs for that music experience. And yeah, that was it was a club. It's not like that's like a big, huge,
Okay,
massive like
so
empire or anything. But I don't know.
in
Is
the
it just me,
80s,
or do you think that like the genuine people are kind of filling in the spaces between all of these kind of
people are realizing that the corporate entities are not a necessity. We're going
exactly.
back to the grassroots of music, like the barn burning fucking parties we used to do in the barn. Like, we're going back to the carnival base of music, which is word of mouth sharing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Basic basic networking before Facebook, before any of these techies made networking popular.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And I think that we're getting back to like, do you remember when you had to have entertainment value, or you had to have some sort of extra skill, or you had to have
gimmick
some sort of
or shtick.
gimmick, or yeah, exactly, or appendage even. I mean, really, like if you rolled up as like a bearded lady or whatever, like you were going to sell tickets, right? And so somewhere along the way that got lost, but I feel like we're getting back to that. Like we talked about being like
Milk and Daz were actually talking about that. It's the entertainment value. It's the part behind the scenes of music creation that people don't always see, is the blood, sweat, and tears that go into creating these personas, creating these elaborate band stages like a lot of the metal bands have now.
mhm,
Um, all of that is work, and it is not always easy to do, as was shown to us tonight.
right, right, right. So
And when you're not, as Daz said numerous times, when you're not on par with your managers and the people who are producing you, then shit like that happens. And then you just get the crappy people who also contribute to that happening. Like
right.
like I said on the live feed, I give props to the human that Daz is, and being able to just take things with that grace and that subtlety. I fucking wish.
You know what though? The squeaky wheel doesn't always get the grease, and I think Daz learned that a little while ago. And not that we're trying to do like a review of Daz's premiere. I wouldn't want to take that away from some of the
Oh,
people who
no, 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 no,
actually
no,
want to
no.
do a review. But
I really
you're not
admire
wrong.
him. I
No,
really admire him as a human.
you're allowed
I've
to, especially in this space. And what I'm trying to say is like I think I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that like somebody like him who's had a lot of experience, who finds like who finds the self gratification out of handling that like a boss, right? People like him have the power to then turn around and walk, other people through stressful situations. And I don't even think that he's quite aware of the power that he holds. But what I just watched him do actually with you behind the scenes was like really refreshing. So what's
He
interesting
literally
to
talked
me,
me right out of being frustrated with my shit. Like, that is a skill set that not very many in this generation especially can sit upon and say, I can do this.
but what's interesting is that his music doesn't necessarily match that personality, right? And so yeah, I think it's really fun to be able to be a consumer and see like what somebody's product is versus what their truth is really interesting. And not to say his product isn't his truth, but it's yeah, I find it's a really fun position for me to be in, to be behind the scenes in some of those situations. But do you think that your product is your truth? Because with CMC you get to have this really great platform that allows you to like open the door to different genres, different personalities, different ideas. Like, is that important to you?
Oh yeah, because when I set out to do this, I kept the root of a DJ in mind. And when it comes to DJing, you don't see just one type of music being mixed into their music. So in the sense of C.M.C being a multi-faced platform and being able to reach, well, I started with the mind of I want to make a worldwide network. I want a place where any type of music can come throw down their tunes and somebody will engage them. Even if it's just one or two people in that group, that starts something small and then it grows from there.
Mhm.
So in that sense, I guess so. I never really put some thought into that until just now. um
Yeah.
I definitely came into this with all types of music in mind.
Okay.
And
Well,
it was because of that aforementioned corporate greed.
mm, I hear that a lot, to be honest. I've had some really interesting interviews lately where that seems to be kind of at the forefront, and I'm really glad. And please don't take this the wrong way, but I'm really glad that people have had these corporate greed experiences, or they're tired of like, forming to
You
what
can't you
box they
can't
need to
wake
be
up
in.
yeah, you can't wake up to a situation if you're not going through it some way or somehow, because you're
But
not learning.
on the back end, it produces some really cool stuff because you guys aren't allowing it to happen anymore. So what we get is this like plethora of independent spaces and artists. And honestly, I'm not that I would want anybody to have to go through these negative experiences, but I'm super glad that you guys do, because in turn we get this really refreshing music experience now, right? I mean, I just
It's
went.
raw, it's raw, it's real, and it's uncensored. Where we're in a generation where everything's censored, censored, censored. It's all about making people feel good in their own element, but forgetting about the fact that there are more than just those people on the planet.
Mhm. We're starting to, build content for ourselves and our friends, in this, in a sense, because
And
that's what other people want.
everybody, the like we hit 902 members as of an hour ago. So I'm
Congratulations.
just gonna touch on that. Everybody that out of all those numbers I've reached out to personally, and it's because the backlaying consensus is that in the music world right now, with the global change happening, it's uncertain.
Right.
People from our generation had to, like, okay, you look at, I'll use Gene Simmons for example. He had to grind hard with his manager. He had to fall on his face repeatedly before Kiss became popular, but when it did, holy shite.
Mhm.
He was considered one of the smartest Jewish people out there. And like Rock, when they found out he was Jewish, they were like, that explains a lot of your being able to save money. And like people were so bent on it. And Gene literally on camera numerous times would say, you know what, it wasn't the fact that I was Jewish, I just used common sense.
Gene has a really great PR sense, though, and he has a very hard brand power
He had
initiative.
to sell all that Kiss merchandise.
But the thing is that he went into that. I mean, and people are probably going to hate on this, but at the detriment to like the music, though. I mean, he's obviously Kiss is legendary. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's like, not great
Um,
music. I'm just saying that like oftentimes when you see situations like that happen, you kind of see things shift a little bit when it comes to maybe like the overall quality of the music. You don't feel like that's lacking there, and like the marketing
Well,
kind of.
because he puts so much time into the PR and the marketing that, yeah, I do feel that kind of took away from what could have potentially been more to the music.
Yeah, totally. Hmm.
Because when you're that focused on your merchandising, you got to think a lot of the time that would go into your creation is now going into, or a lot of the creation of the music story is now going into the merch creation, which, yeah, inevitably, the way that happens is you start focusing on your merch, you're taking away from your creative process.
Right. So like finding that balance. Hmm.
But coming from someone who karaoke's Beth every weekend, I can't really. not the guy. He in a time where marketing wasn't a big thing, made it a big thing too at that same point.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
pioneered being a
the brand power. He pioneered the brand power. I mean, he's absolutely iconic when I think about it. I mean, and Rita Marley is another one, right? Like she was somebody that was like, you know what, the music speaks for itself, but if we can capitalize on the brand power, then we can really push this. I mean, she's a legend for so many other reasons, right? Obviously, like buying the bank that tried to sue her for her man's like estate
I
is
can't believe that whole story. Like, wow, she went super like
yeah,
beast mode on that whole thing.
yeah, she's not a joke,
What
but
an inspiring female.
absolutely, but she's another one that like seeing the brand power behind the music, right? Like Tough Gong, you know, when you come off pretty much any international flight, you're met with like that. What is it like? The duty free and I don't know the perfume store, right? Like you can't get away from it. So there's another one, but that necessarily couldn't have been at the detriment to the music because the music already existed, never to exist again. You know what I mean? So it's like, from the backside, people can.
Another person that you'd actually be surprised that relied heavily on his marketing and the way he presented not just his music but himself. Bob Marley was another one. That dude used marketing in
Yeah.
ways that most people in his time wouldn't have even thought of.
But he was really like, whereas Rita is like focused on like building the foundation part of it, he was really pushing like the
The culture,
reggae culture.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like you don't have to be a Rasta to
to support Rasta.
no, 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 right? Like you can go in it and now like you can go buy their shoes or their speakers. Like I mean their speakers are at Shoppers Drug Mart for crying out loud, right?
I got to do the Marley plantation tour. That was probably one of the coolest things about going out to Kingston.
Isn't it? Why did I think it was in Ocho Rios? Isn't it like by Dunn's
He
River?
has one out there too.
Oh, okay, okay. Hmm, interesting. Okay, so anyways, what and not to like take away from any of that, but I really want to talk about stress. Can we please go back to like a little situation that just happened behind the camera and just walk through like I feel like the situation that no one got to witness, and I'm not gonna sit here and throw you under the bus, but it's a typical
You're
situation that
more than
happens
welcome to.
all the time.
In the case of learning, go right ahead. I'm
I
not a
mean,
shy person. I'm a tough
right?
cookie.
When cameras don't work or microphones don't work or sound check doesn't work or you're running late or the people that you're expecting to be there are running late or like there's any sense of a hiccup, it's really easy to just like throw your hands up and be like, you know what, I'm just going to sit this
I
one
quit.
out. We're
You
gonna
watched me almost do that tonight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so like shout out to you for sticking it through. I appreciate it. I know that, it can be challenging, but like what is it that was happening in that moment that made you concerned for just shutting it down?
I am all good with tarnishing my namesake, but when somebody else that I look up to is involved, I can get a little edgy if I make mistakes that could potentially affect other artists. And that's what
Interesting.
was going through my head in that immediate moment was, oh my God, he just brought me on here to be on the panel. Oh no, why tech? Why? And I started leaning a little too much on that negative, and that's where he was like, no, bro, we're good.
Mhm.
Chill. And then, so we're talking about off the cameras. As soon as I clicked off, he came into my Facebook chat to make sure I was okay.
Yeah.
Completely went above and beyond to make sure I was going to be able to be what he needed me to be,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
just
Manager.
makes me love that man more and more and more as we get to know each other and talk more.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a leader for sure. Like, and then to assist you into the things that you needed to then be successful on this show, I was really impressed because there was a moment where it could have been really easy to be like, you know what, we can reschedule or do this another night.
Oh, and
Um,
we were both dealing with our own frustrations for different reasons too. So
who?
the fact that he could hold me up like that and still work through his
Oh,
own was just like, wow, is this what a man could be?
Oh,
Like having epiphanies, having
Dad,
fucking
where are you,
epiphanies
bro?
the whole time. I was just having one light go off after another, and when he mentioned ADHD, I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is how my brain feels right now.
But do you see where like the solution came in and then all like rewarded everybody, right? Because
Yeah,
I
because
mean, there is
he calmed
no
me down and I took the patience to be able to work through it. And then we all, exactly, we all prospered because I was able to realize, hey, I can just plug my gamer mic in and fix this whole debacle, right? Yeah.
you're right. It's amazing when you get to like see the results of exposure therapy because that's essentially what it was, right? Yeah, it's
Very
important.
much the same way that introduced me and him in the first place was the whole exposure scenario.
Are you talking about when somebody made a comment on a show? What are you talking about?
Yeah, literally. That's how I discovered him, was that comment. and
Yeah.
then you a while later with the live with all of them, and then I clicked in. I was like, wait, I'm pretty sure that's the same human.
Yeah, the way that we have it set up, because there's shows like we have a case of the Mondays, right? So our the way that we have it sorted out, it goes hot on all of our platforms together. So if I jump in on one of their shows or they jump in on one of mine, or I should say Dad specifically, like it goes to all of our platforms at once, which is kind of, I
That's
mean,
awesome.
where technology is really amazing in that sense.
21st century, baby. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. No, I just wanted to talk about it because I felt like it was one of those great examples where I mean people didn't get to see what happened, but there was a moment where
I'll,
you really were like, you know what, we should just maybe like save this for another night or whatever, and then to walk through it and to see the rewards and then to like be able to do the show. I really appreciate it. So thank you for sticking with it.
hey man, it's not like I want to specifically be like, hey, we gotta cancel this because I'm getting overwork here. But the fact that he took a bro stance on that, and he was not willing to let me fail or let me see myself fail, and huge respects there.
Yeah, and you know what's
Again,
funny is when you talk about other people, do you know that I've witnessed you do those same things?
it's built into my brain.
Like,
I don't notice it. I always, but yes, you're not the first person to actually pull this out. I
mhm.
was on I wouldn't say a podcast, but I was on a little reel with Mercules, and he took me aside and was like, bro, like, we weren't even in the same area code. He video called me and was like talking me through this situation because we were both dealing with somebody that was causing drama. And again, he took the leader stance and he walked me through it verbally. And then afterwards, he was like, that's got to be a way to meet your number one fan. Because as soon as he stopped talking, I was like, by the way, I fucking love your music, bro. You're a king of being able to take anything and make it into a hip hop beat.
True story. Yeah, true story. Shout out to Merc, honestly. Like
Yeah,
what a
Van
beauty.
City love.
Yeah, for real. We were talking about Van City actually after the last show ended. The West Coast. I mean, we've talked about it a lot on this show, like what's happening in the the hip hop scene on the West Coast and how it's actually kind of elevated itself, and not that it shouldn't be East Coast, West Coast, or whatever, but the West Coast is definitely like putting in strides and putting in work. And we haven't really heard a lot coming from the East Coast lately in the hip hop scene in Canada, and I'm not really sure like what's going on over there, or if it's just not being pushed this way, or if I'm just not looking in the right places. But there's it's been interesting to witness, and then we hear about what happened with the Juno Awards. Did you hear what was going on there?
Mm-hmm. Um,
Yeah, that stung a little bit. I don't know if everybody knows, but I'm just gonna like take the time to have a conversation about it. So the Juno Awards, I mean, they've got a long history for a whole bunch of different reasons, but recently, and actually, it's kind of gone full circle. So we'll just take you through a little bit. They decided to pull a couple of categories, gospel being one of them, the children's category being another one, and the reggae category. Right? They pulled it straight out of there. It wasn't going to be part of the ceremony at all. They weren't going to acknowledge it or honor it. They didn't even really want to talk about it. Yeah.
You're taking the culture right out of music. Come on now.
And the issue with that is like specifically Black culture. I mean, not to say that gospel is just a Black thing, but historically. Right?
Historically, you guys started the gospel movement. So
Right.
yeah, it is kind of a Black thing.
Mhm.
Some of the best gospel singers I know were from African American families.
So, and then, I mean, since Jamaica has emancipated themselves, I believe it was the same year, actually. It was the same year that that the Juno Awards decided to honor reggae music as part of the awards, right? And so to go 40 years, actually that number can't make sense. That doesn't make sense because it's 63. So
I
no,
get what you mean, though.
that ain't true. But it's yeah. So 40 years, it would have been the 40-year anniversary of reggae. Then they decided to pull it. Yeah, no, Jamaica's been independent for like 65 or something like that.
And it's funny how it's funny that they pull it right after one of the losses of one of the reggae culture's biggest, most hugest influences in Jamaica. It's like, wow, dude, if Marley was alive right now, he'd be like, what the
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of reggae artists since him, and especially Canadian ones, and that's what people don't really talk about. Like, there is a lot of festivals that are going on.
I noticed. Speaking of reggae singers that are popping up in the woodworks, thanks to you, I'm stuck on. Oh, I can't remember his actual name.
Caleb Hart.
Hart, yes. I reached
Yeah.
out to him actually and just sent him a link recently to C.M.C. because I freaking love that man's singing voice. Oh my God. If there was anybody to make me question my sexuality, that would be the man. That would be the man simply because he has a talent to use his voice the way he does.
He actually does music in such a cool way. So he takes like, ska, reggae, all sorts of like beautiful hip hop, rap, whatever. And he like combines them all in such an interesting format. I actually just had the privilege of seeing him live at Cocktails and Jerk Fest like a couple of weeks ago. And he was like, maybe my wife is out in the crowd tonight. And I was like, she's probably in every crowd. Like she is probably in every crowd. Because if you come out looking like that, doing that, like I don't think it really matters where you are in the world. You could probably sort that out amongst yourselves. Like I don't think that that's a big deal. But interesting that you say Caleb Hart because he's actually the one that went on CBC and had a conversation to try and sort through the category situation with the Junos and got traction.
Yeah, that's how I knew you guys had interaction.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna show you something funny that I've never shown anybody since I had this because I'm not a big Shane fan. But in the top corner there, that's his autograph on a Mad Child poster.
Whose autograph?
Huh?
Whose autograph?
Oh, fuck was his name? We were literally just talking about him.
Caleb's?
Yes, because I had nothing else to freaking give him to sign when I ran into him.
Are you kidding me? That's so funny. Okay. What?
He's also got Brandon Hart. His freaking autograph is between Brandon Hart and Mad Child's. And he's like, of all things you can hand me, why that? I'm like, because it's the only piece of paper I have related to music that doesn't, that I feel safe giving you to autograph.
You are wild. You are wild.
The only conversation I've ever had with the man, and by far became one of my most amusing and fondest memories.
Wild. So do you know that he actually got, they're actually going to honor those categories and bring them back?
You were saying something about that earlier tonight, weren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really cool that he fought for that. Fuck yeah.
right? Like what are like it was such a beautiful in time moment. I could share it with, my loved ones and be like, look at what just happened. What and then you know what I mean? We watched the CBC interview and then to turn around and actually make change, I was like,
He's what every fighter
big.
wishes they could be, in that sense of he made it happen.
It was so cool.
He,
And I
he
mean
had an
there was a
he
lot of
had
other
an idea
people
and
that
he
kind of
went with
jumped
it.
in there. Yeah, exactly. Like, and you know what? He like rounded the troops. He got people going. He sent out a few emails to a few people and was like, "This is what we're looking to do. This is what we think should happen." And then actually made some movement. And it was so beautiful to see in real time and to be a witness to like just a little piece of greatness that actually had a profound effect on like the Canadian
The way the
music
system
landscape.
works.
Yeah. 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 Big ups to Caleb
Um,
Hart all day long.
just to jump back to the Rastafari culture,
Hmm.
if we're talking about inspiration, one of the only times you're ever going to hear this statement in the same sentence as each other, I have a very, very amazing artist that I'm fond of. He's a Jewish Rastafarian artist, not rapper. He's known as Yahoo, and he's from
Oh,
Palestine.
oh, shoot.
And
Okay.
yes, he's a Rasta singer. Definitely worth to check out if you haven't heard of him.
What?
Um, he's done shit with Akon. He's done stuff with a lot of other artists that are really well known. But his base root is Rasta as well.
Really? Where did Akon go, man? I seen him like 3 times in 1 year. He was hitting up the club scene hard. He was like on tour with a bunch of big names, and then like he
Disappeared.
well, I think he went and started to like get some fresh water in a couple of communities, right, in Africa. I'm pretty sure. And then we haven't heard from him since. Like, I wonder if he's still kicking it over there.
Maybe
Bring
he
back
found
Akon.
home.
You know who's another one actually is the Dusty Foot Philosopher. Do you remember what was his name? Um Kanan? No. Yeah. The Dusty Foot Philosopher. Do you remember that guy?
I'm trying to
Hold on.
remember his actual artist name.
For
Not
sure
the
that's what
artist
his
name.
name was.
Yeah,
Like, yeah. Like Knaan.
Kanan.
Yo,
He did the
yeah.
White Flag song for for soccer that year.
Man,
Uh,
where's that guy been at?
he dropped out in the end of the '90s. I noticed you saw a lot of stuff from him in the 2001, and then he just kind of poof, no
I
more.
ki- I kind of miss like the soldiers that came through that were like attached to nobody who had like a totally different style and just like shone in and shone out. I feel like he was definitely one of those people. Do you know Co Nation? Like do you know Co
Heard
Nation
of
from
them?
Toronto? So he's
Yeah,
another one. He was in rehab for a while. He did like oh, he did it's like kind of like folk meets reggae music, and I guess he was like in he got, everybody's got a story, right? But he ended up in rehab with like this guitarist, and they put out an album that should honestly be like triple platinum. It's so influential and it has so much Canadian culture involved in it. They honor like
I
some like current
gotta
events.
quickly jump in and give a shout out to people who, in their throes of healing some of the most dangerous things in their lives, can come out and be like, I'm still a creative. Let's create something while we're healing. That's such an amazing feeling as somebody who's been on the receiving end of collabing while I've been in spots of great healing. One of the DJs I work with on a regular basis now, we actually met in the psych ward when I was going through my mental health treatment for bipolar, and they were testing me for schizophrenia at that point.
Okay.
I ended up not being diagnosed with schizophrenia,
Right.
but so like during that time, me and this guy, I ended up writing 3 songs for him, and it's almost been 20 years later, and this dude recently found those songs, put them out on his streaming service, and totally hunted me down for a year and a half just to give me recognition for helping him write those songs in the psych ward all the while back.
the stories behind some music, honestly, like I feel um that people who, you're right, not only go through their healing journey, who are creative and then actually have the backbone to turn around and put the story behind the music, like that is a skill in itself, because I can't imagine it being that easy to be that vulnerable, you know what I mean? Like never mind to be creative. People are in there going through, physical, emotional, spiritual, like, trauma and
I am
others.
sitting
So,
on some magic right now that very well could make my DJ persona a multi-faced persona. I've been an uber fan of hip hop, as you know, so I'm sitting on some written gems that I'm just waiting for the right producers to come on board with. Uh I have 2 duotangs full of finished written lyrics that are waiting to go to beat. And hopefully by the end of next year, I will be putting out a full on collaboration hip hop album with over 90 tracks featuring
whoa,
other artists. Yes,
whoa.
I'm breaking the normal 20 and I'm doing 90 because I can produce a track in minutes.
But like quality track, like 90? That sounds like a
People have questioned me on this. And
sounds like
okay,
something you would buy
sometimes the
off the
quality
streets of
wavers,
Jamaica. Like
sometimes
what?
not.
Mm.
And no, if I'm gonna do the 90 tracks, I'm gonna take a year and I'm gonna actually sink my work into it because I
But
want it to be quality.
to like, what would be your or what would be like your goal with that? Like, what is the idea behind doing that? Because
To do it
you,
because it's never been done.
just to say, right? It's like
Just
yeah. Gibson's glass blowing. He made like the largest bong or whatever, and I'm like, why can you use it? He's like, yeah, it's functioning, but
what?
basically just to do it. Yeah,
How wrecked would you be after
yeah.
that? Like
I don't know.
serious?
You gotta ask him. I don't know. Shout out to Gibson's class. Like he's been on the show, and he took the time and built it up, and I was like, that's wild. Like, what do you even do with that afterwards? You know what I mean? I guess use it, but
Uh, shout out to glass blowers in general because that's a very hard art
totally
to get to. I go to the glass blowing festival here in BC.
very
Actually,
cool.
they have a whole documentary being done on them.
Mm.
The founder of it's really amazing. They have bongs anywhere from $5 to 10,000. And yes, you
Yeah,
heard that right. And
yeah.
the detail. Buddy showed me a $10,000 dragon bong. I was like, I would not take a hoot off that. That just looked cool on my coffee table, but not for $9,000.
But that's where
Like
it's at, right? Like it's definitely an art piece in
it's
itself.
it's the time and effort.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, you're not wrong. It's amazing. I remember when it was like so taboo to have stuff like that, or you'd have to like know somebody who knew somebody to like let you in. It was always like those key cutting places where you'd go get like a spare key cut, or like, and they'd also sell knives or whatever. And then behind the curtain they'd sell like bombs.
So we had a dude that runs the kitchen knife store in our mall in Prince
Hmm.
George. And when I was 16, he pulled me aside. He's like, are you a nerd? Do you like collectibles and stuff? He sold me my first Lord of the Rings replica when he found out my nickname was Frodo. Now, it was originally priced for $500, but when I told him my nickname was Frodo, because he's a fan of Tolkien, instantly dropped it $300 and was like,
Oh,
here.
that's nice. There's some good people in the world. Listen, like there is 100% good people in this world. You know, there is.
I think this
And
is officially our longest conversation.
are you sure? No, it's because we were on before. That's why we've been chatting for hours. I'm like ready for a coffee and stuff. No, I don't think so. You think? Now that you say that,
Between
it's
both
never.
shows, yeah, definitely. But I'm also counting the couple hours that we just sat in on everybody else's show too.
Yeah. I mean, what else are we doing on a Tuesday night, really?
Talking about music and having a good time.
What are you listening to these days?
I feel that changes on the daily. Right now, shout out to Patty Gertie, an amazing Celtic lady. Are you familiar with the Gertie? What the musical
No.
instrument is?
No,
So
what
it's
is
a
that?
cross.
Tell me.
I don't want to butcher it in my explanation, but it combines a guitar, a oh my god, what is the one? It has a piano on either side. See, I told you I was gonna butcher it. Um,
Oh, you mean like an not an accordion.
accordion.
Yeah, yes.
It's a mix between an accordion, a piano, and a guitar.
Whoa, okay.
It's one of the hardest Celtic instruments to apparently learn.
Wow.
But I encourage you, if you haven't checked her out, go check out Patty Gertie. This lady does Celtic ballads originally like no other person I've seen.
Hmm.
She's on YouTube. You can follow her at Patty Gertie Music. I feel like I should be her promoter at this point. But she's someone I'm very fond of as a Celtic ballad singer myself.
Nothing you don't
Okay,
do,
well,
hey? Wild.
spoiler alert, I'm a punk singer too. I don't just do DJ and hip hop.
Wait a second. So are you gonna add those into your
Oh
90
yeah.
cuts? Like what's your plan there?
I'm trying to. It's easier to reach out to the hip hop scene than the metal world because a lot of those boys, don't get me wrong when I say this, but a lot of them are very picky on who they make music with. And if you're not in their cliquey little groups, then they're like, oh, you have to like prove yourself to us before we'll make music with you. Don't get me wrong. I have ran into more cool metalheads than I have guys like that, but they do exist. So I've been trying to build repertoire in the metal and punk scene again, just because I do want to branch out as much as I can, not just with my network, but my styles that I'm able to do.
You remember when Linkin Park did a whole album with Jay-Z? No. Yeah. Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah, because that gave me one of my all-time favorite songs, and that was Encore, which Jay-Z did with Chester live.
Yeah, dude. That
Rest
that
in peace, buddy. I wish you would have had been able to reach out to him before his unfortunate demise, because I've had the privilege of interviewing Chester, and man, what a heartfelt fucking guy that was. He was taken from us way too early. Linkin Park was taken from us way too early, and now they're trying to stuff a female vocalist into
yeah,
Linkin
what?
Park.
So, okay, what's your
No,
feelings about that? Like what's because the thing is she
get
hits
the
those
fuck
notes.
off the stage. You will never be able to fill Chester's shoes.
Whoa, bro.
Chester's
Are you
fucking
for real?
betting. As a devoted fan of Chester, and again somebody that's talked to him, I was not happy when I saw that at all.
Interesting. I felt like she hit the right notes because we just heard like a little sample, right? I felt like she hit the notes, but she was
If
coming with it
if
the,
she
the
okay,
wrong
so you're
way.
you're
You know what I mean?
familiar with
Like,
Sublime, yes?
are you joking?
Okay, so you know who Rome is.
Yeah, of course. And I
If
mean, so
she
they,
fills if she fills Linkin Park shoes like Rome filled Sublime shoes,
but
where
that's
he
his,
did
but that's his
he,
son.
he did his own music, yes, but he also covered every single song the original writer ever
I
made.
see what, yeah, but he did it with a different, like, so I mean, he
He
can
did it with
sing those songs,
Rome. He
but he
he made it.
never, you're right. Okay.
Go ahead.
You're absolutely right. No, you're right. Because even when you listen to them now and they do those old cuts, it's like same style different fashion, but it works because you're like okay because yeah, because it was so eccentric before and kind of all over the place and never really was like word for word for
Grounded.
word, right? It was never grounded. That's perfect. Yeah, that's right. So it kind of lends itself to be a little bit like, a little bit of interpretation there. But with Lincoln Park, I mean, there is nowhere to go but up. You can't. I mean, you can't sing those notes and not go straight. It's like Mariah Carey. Like there is nowhere to go but up. You have no choice but to hit that. She can hit them, like she hits them, but she's not doing it from like the angst and hurt and raw emotion.
The pain that Chester
That
wrote
yeah,
his music with.
like he didn't have to really push himself to get to that place because emotionally he was already there, right? Like,
And that's where I can't take her seriously in this particular role, because she's trying to fill shoes she'll never be able to understand.
damn, you're not messing around, eh? You're just like, nah, forget it.
No, shots
Next.
fired here, man.
For real. Next. Shoo, okay. Yeah, I mean,
I think if
that's
she
just
would
more
have
intense. Yeah.
approached that, if she would have approached that a little more differently, like bringing her own flow to Linkin Park, not trying to fill Chester's shoes, I think that would have been received by the fans of Chester a lot
Yeah, but
better.
who knows who set that up, right? Like who knows who was like, um, this is the way we want it done. Like maybe Linkin Park as a franchise was like, this is what our expectation is. And
So I have a bit of a back insight to that. Yes, she did sit down with the whole band. Yes, she
yeah,
did talk to the whole band before they hired her. But again, when you realize that Chester took everything that hurt him in life, and that's how he was able to come up with those songs,
right. Yeah,
you can't mimic that. No matter how much you want to give light to Chester as her own entity to Linkin Park, you can't mimic the pain he went through. You can't mimic the hurt he felt that made him write those songs.
do you think it's the song specifically? Because I mean, there's been lots of substitutes over the years for bands, right? I'm trying to remember what that Asian guy's name was that filled in for who the heck did they fill in for? Not Journey. Was it Journey? Um, I can't remember. Sorry, I can't hear your audio.
I didn't say anything.
No, no, no. Like, no, but I can still hear it.
Oh, don't tell me that halfway through the podcast. I'm gonna cry.
No, you're cool. It's all good. It just sounded weird for a second, like it was like feeding back really weird. But do you remember what I'm talking about? That band that like super legendary rock band that came out and their lead singer died, and there was like a Korean guy that filled in for a while, or I think he still might be actually.
I'm pretty sure. I know the band you're talking about. Now the name's on the tip of my tongue. I'm going to be thinking about it for the next hour.
Oh man, what was? Why do I think it was like Journey? No,
It was one of the 80s rock bands.
Anyways, the point I'm trying to make is like, do you think it's the content of the music and not the music itself? Like, because with Sublime, I mean, a lot of those songs were made to be like fun and catchy and kind of kitschy, right? Like they're not really like super intense. I mean, Date Rape, right? Like that was like their
That was
kind
the
of
most
like
intense song they did.
right, but that was their banger that they came out the woodwork with, right? And that thing played on the radio like time and time and time again. And that's really the only one that kind of touches on like some um I mean, not that they're not heartfelt, but that's the one that kind of gets you. But the rest of them kind of have like that upbeat tempo and they're kind of playful. So do you think that it's harder to maybe step into a band where like the content of the music is more emotional versus playful? Do you think that that changes our opinion of like who is filling in and why?
In this case, very much so. With music in general, I don't know. I guess that really depends on who and what per se. Um, for example, as we were just talking about Sublime and Linkin Park,
Yeah.
in this case, it's very much situational. I guarantee you, if she would have came at this again with her own song set, not trying to cover Chester's limelight.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's from the consensus from what I've read up on so far. The consensus isn't that she's trying to be part of Linkin Park. It's that she tried to rewrite Chester's music
What?
as her
Why?
own because she wanted to feel like she was part of the band. And because she's stepping in to fill some really huge shoes, I don't know if it was an adequacy thing or what, but she felt the need to cover his music, and that's where everybody started going, no, you have no idea what he felt. How can you cover something from even your own standpoint, if you have no clue what this man has walked a day in his life journey.
I think that's fair of you to say. I think
It's
that,
essentially
yeah,
like trying to write a book without knowing your characters whatsoever.
right. And when you have music, I think that people feel this way more because he's no longer with us and the means in which he
And he
left.
was,
And that
yeah,
was a lot of the content that he made. So I mean, how do you how
you're
dare
taking
she
over
is
someone
kind
else's
of,
life legacy.
yeah, how dare she is like the feeling that I think is kind of a poor taste in everybody's mouth. I think give her a chance. I think that if the band owns the music and everyone signed off on it, I'm really curious to see where that's all gonna go. Like I'm really curious to
I
see like
won't
when
lie.
they come out with
As
some new music, what that's gonna look like, and if she's gonna contribute to if she's gonna contribute to like the songwriting and what, yeah, I'm curious to see what that's going to look like because she does have big shoes to fill, but I think once we kind of let go of maybe like how he passed away and just
I think we
let
need to stop trying to make her fill those shoes and let her fill her own shoes
fill
into
her
the
own,
band.
yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that I mean obviously somebody's out there making choices and someone's greenlit it, right? So I'm curious
I
to
mean,
see what
again,
happens.
as much as I like to be the naysayer in this particular topic, I am curious to see what she can bring to the table. How is a female lead gonna change Lincoln Park for the better? I'm really curious
Yeah. And does it lend
because
itself
it
to
was
being
out of
like
nowhere.
inclusive or like is that kind of ripping off the band-aid for maybe like because I prefer men's vocals over female vocals, and that's not to say that I'm not a huge fan to some female artists. 'Cause there is a lot of wicked chicks doing wicked things, but typically I prefer male vocals, so that's kind of what I gravitate towards. But I think in this particular situation, in the spotlight, underneath this umbrella where we talk about like mental health and what that looks like and how people are very very passionate about anything that has to do with mental health and definitely when it comes to like pop culture, I feel like it might open the door a little bit to see what that looks like, not
Could happen.
necessarily as like
What
a
could happen?
substitute but as an alternative. Yeah.
Future happenings later down the road. I'm definitely,
Yeah.
as you said, I'm definitely curious to see what she's able to do with Lincoln
Mhm.
Park after
Yeah.
Chester's passing. Because
Mhm.
fuck me, those are some mighty big shoes to fill.
And then I
He
mean,
created new metal. Because of him, new metal became a genre. Because
yeah,
of Lincoln Park.
but there's a ton of yeah, I guess I was gonna say there's tons of bands that do that, but not a lot of them try to
One I can
fill.
think of.
I mean, Sublime created their own genre too, right? But they kind of had a little, like we talked about earlier, like they have a little bit of an easier time because of who filled the position. It was an easier transition for
And
what
because he already had multiple bands that he was famous for when he took
hmm
on Sublime,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
was instant clout.
Hmm.
Instant.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. All right, well,
Holy
there's
crap,
my
man.
therapy session for the night.
Yeah, rock on. We need to do these chats a little more often. So did Calico get back to you on, because I know you guys had mentioned earlier when we did the first show that you guys had expressed interest on making me a more apparent face. I was, but we could talk about that a little later when we're not on a feed.
We're still live, you know that, right?
Yeah, that's
Uh,
what I said. We could talk about this later.
no, it's all good. I'm looking at the calendar and it looks like you're already scheduled in for October. So there we have it.
What was, did we talked about doing anything, but was anything set for my birthday on the 5th of October?
It looks that way.
So that's the next show. Okay, perfect. Cool.
Yeah.
I apologize now for whatever state of mind I end up being in on that day, because there's some people that are planning a shindig, so
No, bring
you
it
get
to
the
us.
raw and
I'm curious.
unfiltered me that day.
Yeah, I'll get Calico to follow up with you, but I'm sure I was looking at it earlier to schedule something else and it was in there already. So on that
Well, if
note,
you don't get a chance, I can shoot her a message too.
I'm sure she's probably watching right now.
It'd be a little weird not seeing her poke around.
I honestly, yeah, she has it all sorted out. I'm not going to worry about that too much, to be honest, because she definitely knows what's going on. And every time I do poke around in there, I end up screwing it up. So I'll leave the programming to the head of programming. But yeah, shout out to Calico Hunt for always like coming through, finding us lots of interesting
Thank you for being
conversations.
such an amazing background person.
Oh yeah, she's not in the background though, girl.
And
He
while
is
we're doing shout outs, I gotta give a shout out to her little man. Wow, what a DJ. DJ Lion for the win.
DJ Lion is a force to be reckoned with. For 10 years old, he takes the stage, and I
He
mean,
makes most of
honestly,
us old DJs look like chumps over here. The kid's got a natural knack.
yeah, exactly. No, we've been talking about him for a little while, and will always be, because at 10 years old, I mean, he doesn't actually need our support at this point, but like for everybody out there, please go like, follow, subscribe, check him out. He's doing big things and puts out really cool stuff all the time. He's
10 years old.
actually,
This kid will blow your mind.
yeah, he's more active in the festival scene than online, but please go over
I
there and show your support and your love, because he
thank you for
absolutely
reminding me.
deserves
I
it.
actually need to send Calico a link to Valhalla Fest, which is a
Yeah.
terrace British Columbia local rave that's just getting big out here, and it's cool because unlike most of the rave scene, it's
Yep.
kid friendly.
Very cool. It's so necessary. Being family friendly, like we're pro family friendly, and not necessarily family friendly, but being all ages, right? Like it's up to people to their
So
discretion. But I think that it's important to
so
have those
Jordy
environments.
Laidlaw came fresh off Burning Man before creating this. He's a big head and promoter of Burning Man out in the States. So
Oh, okay.
when I found out that he was doing something in Canada closer to home, I was like, oh, because Burning, like I told him when I first worked for him, Burning Man is on my to-do list. That is like
Yeah.
one of my major festivals in the States. Electric Daisy Carnival is another one.
Very cool.
So they basically created they are you familiar with the motorsports speedway where they do Formula 1 racing?
Of course.
Okay, so they shut that down as a racetrack and turned it into a giant carnival themed rave. The whole
Whoa.
motorsport speedway becomes a giant rave with vendors, dancers, DJs. There's 3 or 4 different stages. Uh
Oh, that's cool.
there's a reason it's one of the main big festivals, and then
Do
the
you
other
know
ones out.
when that is? Sorry.
I can get back to you on that at a later date. I
Yeah.
have it on my phone. I just cannot grab the information without cutting us short.
No, it's all good. I'll throw a link in the description. I'm super curious. I love to hear about events that I haven't heard about, and I haven't heard about that
ECD,
one.
it's known as ECD or Electric Daisy.
Hmm. Yeah, beautiful. And that's obviously like a summertime thing, like most festivals are, right? Like everybody's out there camping and doing all of that kind of thing. That's how
Yep.
it's set up. Yeah,
So
very.
I had a cool festival story last year. I was out at my first Valhalla Fest
Mhm.
and I ran into this. No shit. They were both 90 years old. I ended up doing mushrooms with this 90-year-old couple that had come all the way from Munich, Germany to be here in BC for 3 days at this festival. Shout out to them. I thought I danced a lot. For 90 years old, this couple was freaking out there making most of us young chumps look like just that. And like these guys, you think of the sense these guys were popping mushrooms like old school hippies, man. And
Listen,
I'm
don't
like,
take
how?
ages. Let's not discriminate. Like
No,
people.
not to discriminate. I'm just saying, like these guys were outstanding most of the younger generation for what they were doing, and I ran up and afterwards I'm like, I hope you guys don't mind, but I gave them both a hug and I was like, you have got to be the coolest elders I have ever met, ever.
You know
And
what
she's
though?
like,
They were young ones too, right? That's the thing that people seem to forget. Like they were young ones too. Like, that personality didn't come from nowhere. Those are, well worked in, thought out lifetime of personality that didn't just come out of nowhere. So yeah.
no,
I'm
no, they
I'm
had to groom that over years.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. I'm
and
excited to
and
be like that, just all gray and beautiful and just like flown around listening to music, making fun
it's
of the
been three
youngins and
years
stuff.
now, and I gotta say, we're still pen pals. The three of us still talk.
Oh, that's amazing. I love hearing things like that. Yeah, that's amazing. And they
It
deserve
was
all of that,
cool
you know what I
to
mean? Because if they were
experience,
young,
man.
it would be, you would extend the same courtesy. If they were young, it wouldn't even be a thing. So, I mean, yeah, I love to hear stuff like that because that's what's good. All right. I'm not sure where CMC went, but I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I super duper appreciate everybody for tuning in this evening. You guys stay safe out there. Make sure that you're looking out for one another. It's so important. We talked about Chester tonight, and suicide is not a joke. It is Suicide Awareness Month, and so make sure you guys got your hashtags, or for us old folks, the pound sign 9888. Again, that's pound 988. That'll take you straight through. We also have our hotline that's running, 24/7. So please don't hesitate to call that as well. But yeah, instead of 911, you can call 988. It will take you through to the services that you need to have a conversation if you're feeling like, you know, you don't really want to be around, or you got creative ways to doing something or whatever. And you know what I'm trying to say, because I'm trying to say it without this video getting pulled. Suicide is not a joke. We need to be there for each other. And if people aren't talking, or if they've changed their behavior, if they're posting erratically or not posting at all, if they used to call all the time and they're not, and they don't call and now they're calling, like take those as signs for a reason, to be a good friend. When I talked with DJ Allgood, he had a initiative, MIA, for a friend who is missing in action. May she rest peacefully. We're coming up on, I believe, the 20th anniversary. And so, when him and I had chatted, he said, like, it's just going to pew, pew, pew some love lasers into friends' inboxes and to phone calls, and, um, you know, walk over to their house or knock on their door or whatever needs to happen. And it's super important. Hey, we were just talking about hashtag 988 or pound 988. I don't know. Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay, so it's September is actually Suicide Awareness Month, and hashtag 988 or pound sign 988 on your phone will take you to a 24-hour suicide prevention line, and it's
Well, that's
available. It's available nationally, so you don't have to worry about what
so
province that you're in. And
cool, because Prince Rupert's medical really sucks, and I feel as we are a backwoods community and one of the main port towns for this shipping and receiving for the ships out here,
mhm.
one of the things that lack is our mental health. So I'm gonna fire that out around here like a bat out of hell, because one of the things we lack is the mental health support out here.
Yeah, 988, it's actually it goes straight across. It's federal. So you don't have to worry about where you're at. It'll take you to a person that is available to you all of the time. It doesn't matter the reason, it doesn't matter the time. You make sure that you're doing that. And also, like, you guys don't hesitate on your friends. Don't hesitate on your loved ones. Don't hesitate on your neighbors. Don't hesitate on, the Amazon delivery guy. Like, if something seems off, say
Hell.
something. Be there for each other.
And
Like,
for
what is it?
C.M.C family, you got people like us. People can always reach out to me personally at Jason Frolic on Facebook if they find themselves in a shitty situation. I've advocated for a lot of people who suffer schizophrenia that get stuck in crappy places, and I don't mind putting myself out there to help somebody else feel better. If it saves a life, shoot me a fucking message, guys.
Just like, there's people out there that are certified and there's people that are out there that aren't. And here is the thing that actually, I'll let you know a lot of the differences. And I'm not going to speak like, this is what this what is. Follow up after you have those conversations. Follow up with them. If people are going to take the time to like check in on you or tell you what's going on in their life, you follow up with them the next day. Don't leave
So
it. Follow up.
because I am the older brother of 6 beautiful sisters,
Wow.
I love the follow-up statement. Yes, 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 and yes. It takes 2 seconds out of your day to make sure your friends are okay. And if you are in those circles like I was growing up where a lot of people had mental health issues and nowhere to turn, be that voice. Change don't happen sitting in the background. It's become one of my favorite sayings.
Yeah, I love that too. That's a good one. And the other one too is naloxone training. If you guys want to know where to go, just let me know. We do, we do lives, we do seminars, we do whatever you need to do. If you want us to come and speak to your kids or speak to your workplace or whatever, we're available. And the other thing that I want to talk to really quickly, not to like push this through before we wrap it up, is the Good Samaritan Act. And I think that it should be plastered everywhere. A lot of people don't understand that if you call 911 in a medical emergency situation, regardless of the environment, and I use environment very loosely, you cannot cop charges. So please do not
It's an
stall
infringement
on
on human rights.
your homeboys. If they're down, you get naloxone. If they're down and you don't have that, I don't care what's going on. You call 911. The Good Samaritan Act will keep you from copping charges. You will not be charged for calling 911. You cannot get possession charges. You cannot get trafficking charges. You cannot get charges. It falls under the Good Samaritan Act. So
I don't mean to be this guy, but on that note, before we close things off, if you come across the odd naive cop that does like to flex his weight and try to make up laws, don't be fooled by it. And they do exist.
it's irrelevant, to be honest, because
Know
the thing is
the
that
laws.
yeah, and the law is that if it's a medical emergency, you can't get in trouble. So the Good Samaritan Act is there to protect you and all Canadians, including you. You were on the streets. Edmonton is no joke, and shout out to Dead City Saint, because I appreciate your stories. I appreciate you coming on here and having a conversation. I appreciate you being, a voice for people who don't have a voice. I also appreciate the fact that you have resilience and backbone and tenacity and have no problem, introducing yourselves or making those connections. Which is exactly what Canadian Music Connection is all about. But also doing it from every single platform. Like you're talking about doing it from, living on the streets to being in your spot to like, doing it with a suit and tie. It does not matter who you are or what you look like. You always have these opportunities. And I just think you're a great example of that, and it absolutely impresses me. So thank you so much for being on the show. Absolutely.
I love being on your show. It's always good fun. Never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. No, I mean, to be honest, it actually gets me because I'm like, I'm not really sure where this is going to go, but I guess we'll just sort of run this until it goes. But thank you for all of your great insight and just being a great reminder of why it's important to, to speak your truth. And so until the next time,
my birthday.
Your birthday. You guys stay safe out there, and I guess we'll see you next Tuesday.
You betcha. Have a great night.
Cheers.